Bonsoir les petits confinés, c'est Marie Delta. J'espère que vous allez bien. Ce soir, pour le Café-rave, je ne vais pas passer de musique, mais je vais vous passer le premier épisode du podcast de Jakub Simcik, qui est un artiste basé à Berlin. Le podcast s'appelle A Suspended Time. Et le premier épisode, c'est une interview de moi, un moment passé avec moi, qui s'appelle Now I Know the Wolf. Et pour donner un peu de contexte, même si Jakub, dans le podcast, va le donner en anglais, moi et Jakub, on a été confinés cette année à la Cité internationale des arts. Donc on avait chacun un atelier dans un grand bâtiment. Et donc on a été confinés ensemble lors du premier confinement à Paris. Et moi sauf que moi je suis tombée malade et donc Jakub lui a choisi de faire un projet où il est allé interroger plusieurs artistes dans le bâtiment qui étaient confinés et de passer un moment avec ces artistes. Et donc le premier moment c'est avec moi et je parle de la maladie, du confinement, enfin voilà, c'est des réactions à chaud et c'est un moment passé avec un autre artiste et je vous souhaite une bonne écoute.
A concrete parking lot surrounded on all sides by buildings and a railing overgrown by vine make the setting of this collection of interviews. These interviews were recorded in this limited space during the first lockdown of Paris between March the 16th to May the 11th, 2020. The residents of the city were only allowed outside of their homes for 1 hour a day and only with a signed slip of paper. I was part of a group of about 40 people from all over the world who decided to wait out the coronavirus pandemic on site. The front door of my studio led to the parking lot, which quickly became our concrete village square as time passed. My neighbours, the other residents, left their homes to sunbathe in the spots of light, travelling across the courtyard as the hours passed. Squinting our eyes against the bright sun, we started to talk, to meet, and to collaborate. And I noticed that our work was changing in front of our eyes. So I decided to document it with these podcasts to make sure that we don't forget what it was like. Due to the uncertainty of the situation and the mass cancellation of our exhibitions, concerts and performances, we all now had all too much time to ask, what do we do now? I had 2 questions and they took about 2 hours to answer. Every single of these interviews is a portrait of one of the residents of the Cité Internationale des Arts during this period. And this first one is with Mariette Auvray. She's a Parisian filmmaker and musician. In her films, she portrays the lives of women across the globe with an intimate and political lens. Her voice is a very important part of her work. Next to her work as a director, she's also been recording and playing music under the guise of Marie Delta, and has also been a member of several post-punk and synth-pop bands over the past decade, such as Pussy Patrol, Eyes Behind, and BCBG.
My role as interviewer is more to help you along the way. So sometimes I ask a lot of questions, sometimes I don't ask anything at all. You read the questions, but the questions are not really questions, they're more like an instruction. So the first part is about yesterday, and it's more of an exercise to describe yesterday as detailed as possible.
Okay. So this morning I woke up and I had headaches, and then I took a coffee along with my Chinese medicine. So it's funny because it feels like I'm taking a magical potion or something like this. That I hope it's a magical potion.
How does the medicine taste like?
Bitter, super bitter. It's always a ritual. Like I always stay a bit in bed. I check on my body, where I feel the pain. well, this week the pain is really concentrated on the head.
What kind of a pain was it in your head?
It was a pain like running in my head, like coming from some places to other places, and with a bit of heat in the head coming by waves. I really don't go too strong on my body because I want to take care of it and just not force anything. I stretch. That's the only thing I do with my body with sport. So after this, like I try to work around 10 to be in this rhythm, to not feel like basically to help me with not feeling sick. So I started to work, and I did the musical score of a Super 8 movie I edited. That is like I would say the first part of a diary of my life. So first part is in Berlin, and it's in Teufelsberg. And then there's a transition to my apartment I had near Pigalle. And Pigalle is my favorite neighborhood. It's like the neighborhood that kind of saw me growing up as a woman in Paris. And so in the film, you see my ex-boyfriend in his apartment. So it's a really intimate moment. There's the cat, there's him. So it's kind of a poem. Yeah, about the memories of like someone I loved, and of me coming back to this memory. And then I did the musical score. When I approached this, I thought I would add some keyboard or anything, but then I just felt it was really enough with the voice, because I had created a big group of voices singing to the images. So yeah, I was doing this orchestra of voices, and at the end, it really, I'm surrounded by different people, but it's just my voice.
Interesting that you would be cutting a film about intimacy, about intimate relationships, a lot of scenes that you can't really do anymore while recovering from a sickness and having been alone.
Yeah. Probably it's really unconscious, but in that day, I have to say, I was smiling a lot, so it made me, made me feel good. So yes, layers of voices, hearing them, singing them. So I was in this bath of voice, probably also to wash me.
And what time of the day was it?
Around 6.
So you worked continuously for 8 hours.
It's really, when you're getting into singing, for me, I can't stop. It's like I'm opening a lot of chakras and like...
What do you mean with opening chakras?
It feels like you're easing some level of yourself. If you sing low pitch or if you sing high pitch, you feel that you're not opening the same door. Then I see the result on my body, that I feel more fluid. And then when I open all these doors in myself, I feel really much more open, much more aware, more connected to nature. And well, the only nature I see is my plants and the trees. Actually, I'm quite connected to my plants. Yeah, I follow them more, I watch them more. I really take care of them.
So it sounds like quite a flow that you were in for 8 hours.
It's something my body wants to do, these layers of voices. It's like I'm swimming in a bath of voices when I do this.
You're turning yourself into a choir.
Exactly. It was so fun to do this. It felt better to do this than to do anything else, so why stop? Also, something I didn't talk about is the weather. Yeah, the wind in the trees, the rain and the dark sky, it really felt so good because you are inside. It reminds me of when I was a teenager and I was reading novels in my parents' bedroom and with the storm outside, and this feeling of feeling very protected. And then you want me to talk about the evening?
Sure, yes.
It's a bit boring, but usually...
I love boring.
In the evening, I watched The End of Time from this Canadian filmmaker, Peter Mettler, and it's a documentary about time. And at some point he films a volcano, Earth being on fire. Orange liquid covered with sparkles of ashes. That stuck with me. Also in the film there is one image of like the atoms like crushing into each other, expanding into different matter. Very, very fast crushing of atoms. So yes, during the whole quarantine I've been watching Games of Thrones. I stop it when I really feel that I'm going to sleep.
So you binge watch yourself to sleep?
Exactly. Also, not to keep thinking about the sickness, because there's nothing that can reassure me, no one that can reassure me. So Games of Thrones make my mind travel to another space.
Now we can maybe move on to number 2, which is to describe the coronavirus lockdown in general. In terms of how that has changed your priorities this period, or how that has changed your work and your approach to work.
The 2 first weeks were really different 2 weeks. First week I had no virus, second week I was sick. So I was generally feeling pretty stressed, didn't feel good, I felt like shit. I felt stressed out because I had many things lining up. I had the first screening of my movie, like a documentary. I shot it in Palestine, and I chose to hire like a sound mixer from Palestine. Usually she can go to Jerusalem where the Wi-Fi is better, and she was like finishing the sound mix, but then she got stuck in Ramallah, and so she couldn't send me the files. I started to hesitate. I wrote to the venue. I said, I don't know if it's worth it to do the screening. So I was, arranging this, like just hesitating, not knowing what to do. Because I'm kind of an anxious person, like it really was freaking me out.
What does it mean, freaking out?
Oh my God, I did that. It's because there was no hydroalcoholic gel, or so I did my own mixture with. This sucks. But I did my own mixture of Javel and soap.
Javel is like chlorine, isn't it? Your skin must have burnt.
I know. I don't feel good about it. It's my mom who advised it to me, and she's even more anxious than me. So, yeah, it's my mom's fault.
These were the last few days before the impending lockdown. Mariette had made very good friends with 2 other residents of the Cité des Arts. They were Sally Scopa, a young painter from San Francisco, and Alexander Segan, a young art historian from Australia. They shared a sense of humour and were in daily touch through WhatsApp.
Sally, me, and Alexander, we are chatting on WhatsApp. It was funny because I told them, yeah, I did my own mix of Javel and soap. I don't recommend this, but this is what I do. And Sally sent me like a guideline for like Ebola.
There was also a chat group on WhatsApp, which most of the residents of the Cité des Arts had joined. It started filling up with messages now. The residents of the Cité des Arts were now posting sudden goodbye messages, optimistic gifs, and invites to socially distanced farewell drinks in the courtyard or in the little park that had just opened up next to the main building. Mariette also started to consider going back home to her parents in the countryside. That Sunday was a brilliant first day of spring, and the whole city seemingly rushed out to the piers of the Seine to enjoy their last day of freedom.
The Cité now has a park. It didn't have when I came in November. And so I went there with Sally and Alexander. Little by little, probably like 10 people joined us. I had this strong feeling that things were going to change, and I was not adapted to it at all.
The rate of infections started getting out of control in Paris. A speech of President Macron was announced for Monday the 16th of March. He had supposedly been absolutely appalled by images of the Parisians enjoying the sun of the first day after the bars had been closed, and he now announced a full lockdown of the country within less than 24 hours, constantly repeating the sentence, "Nous sommes en guerre," we are at war. This felt like a historic speech to very many people. It was also definitely meant to be one. everyone was watching.
Yes, I noticed the Nous sommes en guerre. But I noticed this. I thought that was useless to say this. But it's not that what stuck with me, actually. What struck with me was the emergency of it. This really short amount of time it would give people, and also like the amount of people that left the city in the morning. I didn't want to bring the virus to my parents' place. I would feel too guilty if I had contaminated.
Do you think you were already infected by that time?
Probably. Maybe, but I'm not sure. But on the Sunday evening, I think I felt very eaten up. I probably was already infected. I think I caught it just right before the quarantine. It was a bit of a relief too, because I felt so stressed out before. Everyone speaks of the wolves, and then the wolf is there. So let's ride the wolf. Let's get through this.
This is exactly what you had been preparing for.
Yeah. But I still called my mom. I wanted to share. She reacted really stressed out, maybe more stressed out than me. The first week, I dreamt of the virus as the form of a 40-year-old man wanting to sit next to me in my dream. Yeah. And in my dream, people would say it was the coronavirus. The day after, I had difficulties to reach my doctor because he couldn't make the video consultation work. Wednesday night, I got some respiratory problems. I decided to not tell it to many people because I would feel people were not helping me at all, except doctors. But even doctors, you could feel they were also. There's no medicine. There's no clear medicine for it. So that felt really lonely. For example, my mom called my aunts, and they were calling me, and it was just I just could feel the stress. So I really decided to isolate myself even more. People were annoying me, really, like you got it, like it's horrible. That's not helping me. So I felt I had really to protect myself from the fears.
So it sounds like people were more occupied with themselves and their own fear than they were with what you were going through.
I really felt, I really need to distance myself now from people. I was trapped in my sick body, but they were also trapped in their own fears.
How did you notice that you are being stigmatized?
The stigma, I really felt it when people would tell me to even more quarantine. That's how I felt the stigma. I was like, I'm a walking virus for 14 days, so I shouldn't open my door. It's violent. It's really violent. But then the whole problem was the groceries.
A few days after getting the virus, Mariette's phone rang. François Tiger from the administration of the Cité des Arts, who was checking up on everyone. When she told him about her disease, he simply offered her to do the shopping for her.
In a way, I was just not a target anymore for capitalism, because I was a sick body. So that's why I feel also it's a suspended time, probably, because I felt out of everything. And the nights were a bit stressful. The nights were not comforting for me because I could see I was even more alone. It's suddenly like your body is a prison and it's really compressed. The first time the respiratory problem came, it was in the night. So I called the SAMU, and then the SAMU is like this medical service that if it really goes bad, they come to your place and they take you to the hospital. If you start having difficulties to breathe, you call them. And so I spent 45 minutes waiting, and I think it was the worst time of the epidemic. And I had a young doctor who reassured me, if you can count until 16 without taking your breath again, then you're fine. And she told me, call back if you can't, stand up. And I'm like, okay. So if I'm dying, I should call again. But if I'm not dying, I don't call call again. And really, I felt really abandoned. I shouldn't go to the hospital. I can't go to the hospital. I have barely medicine to fight this. I was literally sleeping 10 hours with no dreams. I was super tired. I couldn't stay on a chair. I was, it's really heavy. It still is in my body, and I still feel it. So it's really heavy and really long to get out. The thing is that you get used to the virus. I'm not afraid anymore. I'm just annoyed, I know the symptoms now. Now I know the wolf. So I was just not stressed out after. I was like, oof, here it comes again. But I kind of felt it was not going worse than that. The first doctor told me like, oh, it's going to last 10 days, but it's not. Yeah, I really felt everything was so messy. Even the informations from the doctors were contradictory. So that were like 2 weeks of really big isolation. And I really feel it really changed me.
It's interesting. I think that's kind of something that binds together a lot of the stories I've collected so far, that people have started to reevaluate the direction of their own lives, the profession, the way they work. Can you maybe describe some of these changes that you noticed in your priorities, in your values, in habits?
I thought, I'm going to reduce the amount of things I'm going to do. Because I'm usually quite, I have a band, I have this, I have that, I do films, I do music, do a lot of things. And my schedule is really busy all the time. And so, I started reconsidering.
To be less of a packing mule.
Exactly. Yeah, when everything stops, you see it with a distance. What for? Why am I running and dispersing myself? So it was for me this idea of like coming back to the core.
Okay, you said you realize what is unimportant, but you must have also had a point where you realized that person or this project or this idea or is actually, I should give it more space.
The voice was a really big thing, like coming back to the voice, to my voice. And so this is connecting me more to being human and to other humans and to my body. But I have to say, I'm still processing this because I still feel really lost.
This packed schedule that you talked about, it's not just something you get naturally. It's something that gets culturally ingrained by living in a society that fetishizes a certain type of work, a culture that only allows depression in the shape of a burnout. It's not something that is a core part of you, but something that you learn. What are your thoughts about this? On one hand, suffering from a virus, but also noticing you're starting to question the way you live. And on the other hand, a government that is actually expecting us to continue as before, as if nothing had happened.
I feel a lot of things. Before the quarantine and everything, there has been like almost 2 months of strike. I followed the strike and everything, but I was not part of it. And now I feel I'm going to be in the streets against this government that has not helping us like during this crisis, and also hiding informations. There's anger. There's anger, and I just feel more anger has come from me. I'm accumulating anger. I thought, wow, this virus is really anti-capitalistic.
It seems like discipline is a way for some people to stick to the old, but anyone who's not disciplining himself into following the same pattern as before, their relationship to work is changing. Also you just said, I'm going to slow down the pace, and but then the day you describe is 8 hours of working, but you were in a flow, so it's a different type of work. How has your relationship to work changed?
It changed. My parents, they always pushed me to work to escape your class. It's really hard to escape from this hyperactive, capitalistic society and rhythm. I came back to old patterns. I'm not proud to admit this, but I have to say that being sick made me feel guilty of not working. It's weird, but I was feeling guilty of being sick. I know, I'm not proud to admit this, but that's why I was catching up, after the 2 weeks. I was like, oh fuck, I was in bed, I should work, I felt guilty. It's weird, it's ridiculous, but yeah, it is definitely a feeling I had. So I worked even more, maybe. Well,
but if you could reflect upon how this has changed your creative work.
When you're doing a film, you're involved with people when you're shooting. It's the best part. And I want it to be the whole part. I want to stop editing. Maybe performance, something to be with people at the same time, in the same place, and to share this in the time of a performance or a concert or something live. You can't control time the same way.
So basically more process and more community and less...
less discipline, less computer, more surprise. Because what you're doing with the computer is that you're erasing surprise. You spend a lot of time doing this, erasing the mistake on the sound, erasing the mistake on the image. So I want more mistakes, more surprises.
My professor at art school, she used to say, mistakes are gifts.
Nice. Un accident heureux. It's like sometimes there are accidents and it's good.
How has it affected you to be so lonely for 4 weeks?
I felt at some point, not this week. This week I felt very adapted, probably because of the rain outside. But the weeks before, I felt like, if anyone was touching me at some point, I would feel like, wild. I've been lost social skills. And in a way, I felt that it dehumanized me a bit.
In what way did it dehumanize you? What do you mean with dehumanize?
Dehumanize is more being another kind of animal than a human.
What kind of animal were you?
I don't know. I became another kind of creature. I don't know. But I really feel I adapted to some new state.
6 months later, Mariette and me got on the phone to talk about these recordings. The timing of our conversation was very peculiar because that very day Emmanuel Macron had just held a very new speech announcing a new lockdown the very next day.
I'm catching you kind of a little bit on the run because we were supposed to talk tomorrow. Now we had to do it quickly now instead because you have to go to Paris to pack your stuff tomorrow.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. It's like tomorrow I take a train at 7:30 and I go to Paris. I pack clothes and stuff to basically take another train around 5. And go back to where I am right now. Go back to my parents' place.
Crazy.
This is so crazy.
Yeah.
This is so crazy.
There was a second wave of the virus since we last had the recordings. And the situation in France is announced today, wasn't it? And therefore...
Yeah, it's announced. But the thing that is different right now is that I'm not sick anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've witnessed a lot of my friends getting sick. So it's not like a lie. Like there is a rise of the epidemic. Basically, the same thing happened. The president speaks on TV, and he announced the new confinement, and it's starting on Friday. So we have really little time to organize, and it's made on purpose so that people in Paris can't escape.
It's also quite ruthless to and also distrustful of the population to say, we're consciously going to make the deadline really short so that you can't make any nonsense.
Exactly.
As if you were children.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. Like in one speech of like from 8 to 9, it just decides everything for the rest of the month.
No.
It's very violent. It's very authoritarian.
Yeah.
It just decides my day to tomorrow. Like I don't know. It's just like Basically, they are keeping the order of the economy so that it doesn't collapse. But people like me who are like unemployed, we. Not only there is the confinement, all these measures that are very violent, but there were these horrible attacks. And all of this at the same time, it just makes people explode. The whole summer in Paris, it was so violent. You could feel tension in the street. Well, I escaped an aggression from a guy in the night. It was at the entrance of the city, actually. And the thing is, like, when it happens in Paris, like, I realized, like, nobody reacts. There were cars, like, a few meters, nobody reacted. But I was super afraid. And then I went back to the city, and he insulted me, but then I could enter. And then I cried. So it was like harassment, like street harassment. Another time, another guy got beaten up in front of me, and I had to stop the guys because I was telling them, like, you're gonna kill this guy, like, come on, like, stop, like, so, and all of this in 3 months. So something was already going nuts in the city since the summer. I think just like the virus is just revealing a lot of economic problems, social inequalities in France. That's not random that after George Floyd murder, the anti-racist movement in France got really more active and bigger. So yeah, it's been difficult. It's been difficult. It's been very tense.
One of the things that really stuck out with me in the conversation we had 6 months ago was your relationship to work that was starting to change. There were a couple of things that you said. One of them was, I was ashamed because I couldn't work when I was. And the other one that I still remember is that the virus made you go back to the core. I think that's kind of a sentence that you repeated quite a lot, that it made you rethink what is actually important, what is really a core part of what you want to do and how you want to live.
It's funny because I had forgotten I was feeling guilty of not working because I say this in the recording and I was like, oh my God. But in retrospect, I think I was also working. It kind of like kept me alive. And that's something I realized after because I was so lonely and sick. I really had to work. And so that's something that is as true as the fact that I was feeling guilty.
When you say make you feel that you're alive, do you mean the feeling of having a worth, or what exactly do you mean?
Of being connected. We realize the need to form community again, and in all layers of life. During the first confinement, I don't know if I told you, with friends we did a radio. We did a lot of outside events in Paris, and we were programmed in a big music festival this November, but it's gonna be cancelled. But still, we created stuff out of this first wave that are staying, that are continuing and evolving and blossoming. So, and this is a community thing. This is really the radio, this collective radio. A lot of my friends told me, "Oh, but I didn't know, I didn't think you were so sick because you were keeping doing on your radio shows. I thought all was okay." Then I realized, oh yeah, on the outside, people thought I was okay because I was still publishing stuff. If I analyze this, I think it was really to keep myself connected. If I don't connect to myself spiritually through my art, or I don't connect with others, then there is no reason anymore to live. I realized that also why I kept on being active on working was also outside of the pressure of capitalistic society that is there.
J'ai longtemps espéré revenir en secret.